Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
Are you enjoying wedding season being back on?
Obviously not.
Yeah, clearly not.
Oh, that was a big one.
That was a big one.
To a new episode of Drum and Drummer. It's Thursday.
Yep.
Most of your week is over.
Yep.
We're bringing you slowly into the weekend-ish.
We're beyond hump day, but we're not quite at Friday.
Yeah.
I quite like Thursdays, you know?
Yeah. I tend to have Fridays off from the studio, so I kind of like Thursday night, get my shift done, and then I was like, okay, cool.
Thursday's like your Friday, then, essentially.
Yeah. I've got gigs usually Friday, Saturday, but it's studio I can put to bed a bit unless I've got recording. But just gives me that. I don't have that Friday feeling very often.
No.
Which is nice. I'm going to dig straight into something, George.
Please.
I'm going to dig right in to a tweet you sent into the world.
Yep.
I took 10 packets of crisps from the buffet at tonight's gig.
I did, yeah. What do you want to know?
Right, first of all, I don't care about the gig.
No.
I care about the crisps.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were sort of individual packets of crisps, I assume, just sort of that people could help themselves to.
Yeah.
What brands are we talking?
Kettle. It was all Kettle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was a Jubilee party. So
bit of money behind this gig.
Well, yeah, big
banging
time.
in there. The Kettle chips. What sort of flavours? Were there mixed did they have different flavours or just
Good question.
One standard flavour?
Another good question. It was mainly salt and vinegar or ready salted, and then there was a few cheese and onion knocking about, but not really. It was like a sea of white and blue, and then a few yellow ones.
I feel like as cheese and onion just sort of it doesn't feel as popular as it once was.
No, I know what you mean.
Has sort of cheese and onion been killed off by the artisan crisp? You know, these...
Perhaps. Thai sweet chili.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That sort of ting.
Well, because they have to then compete by saying mature cheddar and, spiritual spring onion or something. Like, just make it sound a bit more
Heaven's
appealing.
Tears.
Yeah.
It's the salt.
Exactly.
Salted tears and unicorn smile pepper.
Yeah. That's what they're calling the cheese and onion, because they have to compete with Thai sweet chili and whatever else there is nowadays.
I will give a quick shout out to what
please.
I think is one of the strongest salt and vinegar crisps out there in the market. And it's the Co-op's finest taste, or whatever their top brand is called. And it's like the Chardonnay salt and vinegar crisps.
Yeah.
Take your fucking mouth off, they will.
Yeah.
But Christ, what a crisp.
I know.
Out of all the shit the Co-op make, they're absolute garbage. And then they just pull this out of the bag, literally. I'm thinking, like, what a crisp. Where's that come from, Co-op?
Oh, it's insane. So I never had salt and vinegar until like this year.
What? Hang on. Whoa, what do you mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, right. Okay. So get ready to do beep, 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 beep. So Elfie introduced me because she's obsessed with vinegar. And she was like, try some salt and vinegar crisp. And now I'm a vinegar mentalist. I'm
but why have you never had salt and vinegar crisps up until
I just never liked them. They're always too, whatever that thing, too like, it's blowing my head off. But
sharp.
As soon as too sharp. But I was going to say tangy, but sharp's good. Yeah. But as soon as I started eating them, then I started going, okay, well, where can I go next? Where can I get my next high?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, the Co-op ones are the best. And she's on this page called Brighton Girl. And someone literally asked the question, where can I get the strongest salt and vinegar crisps? I want something that will blow my head off. And everyone commented Co-op. And so that's why I laughed so hard, because I was like, it's almost like a cult thing. I think
really
people,
like an underground sort of like connoisseur of the salt and V world. That's where you know to get your good stuff. That's the dealer that's going to give you the good shit. It's going to knock your fucking socks off.
That's the meth that's, Breaking Bad 96%.
You're, and you get our pay co-op prices.
Yeah.
For that hit.
Yeah.
That hit in my brain and my mouth.
This is it. And Elfie said, I want my mouth to go numb. That's what you're trying to get. And it does do that. If you eat a whole packet.
And the crisps.
There we go. Now we're starting.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to just go back to your gig with the buffet.
Yeah, please.
You took 10.
I took about 10, yeah.
Yeah. Was that sort of like a sneaky, like, I'm just going to rob them here? Or were they like, just fucking out yourselves because no one's eating them?
Kind of half and half. So there was buffet food, but it was just cold burgers, and everyone that was eating them in the band but like, this is awful, and I don't really ever eat before gigs because I don't like to be drumming and feeling bloated or whatever. Do you know? No, I think it's a drummer thing. I mean, if you're playing bass,
and with my poor posture, it's very much sort of hunched over, and so the belly is already, the jelly belly is already sort of squashed. And then it's just to pop a sort of, I don't know, like a pie in there or something. I was like, nah. And we are, I mean, essentially we are the athletes of the band.
We are, yeah.
You know what I mean? We are the athletic, the strong men, the glue that holds the whole show together.
Yeah.
And we've got to use 4 limbs.
Yeah.
And so
my favorite bit of that,
light on our feet.
My favorite part of that was the fact that it seems like the only offer of food you were getting is a pie. You're like, well, it's either a pie or nothing.
But it's always dense food, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always meat and bread and pastry or just, and it's like, no, I want to be light on my feet here because I've got a wicked drum fill to bust out.
Exactly. Yeah. So and
I don't want to vomit on my kit.
No, exactly that. So I
get a stitch. I think I've had a stitch before.
So I think after the first set, I was like, well, I'll get a packet of crisps.
Sure.
And I saw, but the thing was, they just had a box of kettle crisps and they weren't even on a table. They were just sort of in a box. So they kind of seemed hidden anyway. Like I was like, do people even know they're here? So I took a packet, and after the gig, I got another packet. And then we finished the gig, and pretty much as soon as we finished the gig, people left. And then it was just winding down, and it was in a barn and they had no lights. So our lights on stage were the only lights, and everyone was sort of leaving. And I was like, there's all this food left, I don't think, and everyone's leaving. So I'll take a few. Yeah. So I took about 5 packets in one go, just because I was like, I'll take some for the road. But then it was quite funny because I walked past Elliot and I was like, look how many crisps I've got, what are you going to steal, like jokingly. And he found it funny. And so I was like, well, I'm going to keep up this bit. So then whenever I went past, I took another packet. And so I guess it was actually like 12 packets in total, because there was the 2 I ate and then 10 more. But do I feel guilty? No. Would I do it again? Yes, probably. It's I got to tell you this story quick. So I told a friend about this on the phone yesterday, and he told me he did a gig at some sort of festival where Blazing Squad were headlining, and they were on first about midday, and there was a load of champagne, and they stole hundreds of pounds worth of champagne, but it wasn't like left over. This was before the event had even started. And apparently there were organizers going around going, where's the champagne gone? And it was all in their, gig bags and hardware cases. And they went up to the singer and he point blank denied stealing any. And stole about 300 quid worth of shit. So basically my point is, I don't feel quite so bad about stealing some kettle chips now.
Of crisps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
Well, I also saw something on Twitter the other day. Or on the internet, I can't remember where, it doesn't matter. So the drummer for Polyfilla.
Polyphia.
How would you pronounce it? Polyphia. That's so.
This kind of went viral, didn't it? I saw it on Reddit.
It did a bit, yeah. And I think it'd be bad if we didn't discuss it. So watch Polyphia drummer expertly overcome musician's worst nightmare at festival. Basically what happened is he was playing along to a click track, And then the click track stopped working. So then his drum tech had to tap his leg to show him where the click was. And he played along. And apparently he did the whole rest of the half-hour set just with that going. I don't think we've ever discussed playing to a click live before.
No, not.
And I mean, what's a good question? Do you remember the first time you played along to a click live? There's a good one.
Yeah, I think it would have been. Live would have been my old band Betamax.
Right.
This was sort of like an 80s synth pop revival sort of band formed out of the ashes of 3 Day Bender with a couple of new members, and we had a keyboard player who was really good, very unreliable but very good. I mean, he turned up to a gig. We were doing a gig at the Registry in Pompey.
Oh yeah.
And we had to be there at 5 or something. Phone call at 5:05 from Nick. Hello mate, you right? You here? Yeah, I'm just outside. Is Paul home? I don't know. He might not be home from work. Why? I've just got here and I just realised I forgot my keyboard. Brilliant. Turned up to a gig. And another thing, he had this like old school Yamaha sort of synth box thing that he'd get all his sounds from. And he got home from a gig or a practice once and put it in the porch of his house where he lived with his dad at the time. And the next day he got up and went downstairs and it had gone. And he was like, Dad, have you seen my Yamaha synth box? And what Nick had inadvertently done is put it with a load of stuff that his dad was taking to the tip the next day.
Oh, shit.
And his dad took this bit of gear that's probably worth $1,000, just took it down the tip. And obviously, someone at the tip was like, oh, we'll put this aside because this probably is worth something. And then thankfully, they drove straight down there and the guy was like, we've still got it. And then they gave it back. But but we'd also have loads of extra sort of synths and stuff and some electronic drum beats that I programmed. And I would just make a stereo audio file. I'd pan the click hard left, the tracks hard right, and then I'd bounce those out. And then at the time, I would basically just put them into iTunes on my iPad. And then I had a mono splitter out the iPad. One would go into a tiny little mixing desk for the click for me. And the other side would go out into a DI box and into the PA. So I played to a click. I was the only one in the band who had the click.
Yep.
So there's a few sections where it's like, naturally, on the record per se, there wasn't any drums, but I'd have to count it through on a hi-hat.
Yeah. What I want to know, were you nervous first time playing to a click? Were you like, oh, this could be awful, but then it's kind of like, oh, this is actually all right?
I don't think I was nervous. I think I was more nervous about the other guys in the band.
Right.
Because, not to slag them off, but they're not professional musicians.
Yeah.
So I was confident I knew the structures and I could play to the click. The fear was, if they don't know the structures, there's no room to breathe here.
No.
They've got to follow the tracks.
Yeah.
I was thinking train tracks there, rather than music tracks. But it was fine. I think by that point, I don't know. I've never struggled to play to a click before.
No.
And I've done a lot, I don't know at the time if I'd probably done more click stuff in the studio.
Yeah.
This was before I owned the Blacksmiths, but, whenever I did drum recording, I would try and do it to a click.
Yeah.
And I just never found any sort of resistance to it.
No.
Yeah, I've recorded a lot of drummers who just can't do it at all. They really struggle. And I quite enjoy playing to a click. It doesn't put me off it.
No.
I think I'm pretty good at it now because I've done it a lot, especially studio stuff. So I got asked to play for a function band called LFX who do sort of drum and bass, and that's one of the only wedding gigs I've done, which is to a click. And that was more, I had no issue playing to the click. It was more anxious about the setup because I was using someone else's setup. It was a slightly different way of running the tracks, and it was kind of quite continuous. Literally, song 1 would go straight into song 2, and it was a whole set of music that I'd never done before.
Yeah.
So, but it was the click wasn't really an issue.
No, and I think it's almost, I found it's nicer in a way. If you can play along to it, then there's this feeling, because I played with bassists before who can, might moan about you if you do this or that, hey, I don't think you should have done, oh, that's, but if you're playing to a click, you're like, well, at least he can't complain about my timing because it's in time. But I think it can go wrong if you're playing to a click and you're staying in time. And even though you're playing the drums, sometimes the other musicians can sort of speed up or slow down, and you're like, you hear where they're going and you go, fuck, try not to follow what he's, I have to really be like, yeah, I'm the click. Because as soon as you go out, that's it. It's just completely gone. Yeah. But I did one with that, where I've talked about the gig in a previous podcast with that artist, Ren. And that kind of felt like a weird situation in terms of click, because I wasn't running the track. The person on the keys was running the tracks. So she'd start them, but I wouldn't really have control on when they were going or know when they were going to start. And the thing was, some of the tracks, the click would start after the song started, if that makes sense. So there was one where it was like, it starts with just guitar and singing, and then the click would have to come in, and it was like bip, 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 and then I have to start, and I'm kind of, it was the first gig and we'd only done one rehearsal, so I was literally kind of staring at her hand over the laptop, and I was like, right, when's she going to press spacebar, because I need to be on it, and knowing if I miss after, it's like, you can't just go, miss the first four click, oh, I'll come in later. It's like, no, the track.
I think with the LFX gig, not an issue, but every song it was different in terms of, this one had 2-bar count in, this one had a 1-bar count in, this one the track starts it and then there's a 1-bar count in, and it's just like making sure I knew exactly that, it's like, just be consistent. And that's what I did with Betamax. It's like every track is the same count in. So there was never,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. It's when you've got control, it's okay. But if someone else is doing it...
So I wonder with that clip of that drummer, what it would be like to play along with someone tapping your leg.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tapping my leg at the moment. I just wonder what it... I guess because you've got those drum stools that send you kick, kick, and you can put kick into your drum stool.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not a timing thing. That's a feeling thing.
Yeah.
Instead of hearing it in your ears, you feel it in your butt.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, how easy that would be to, what the difference is to having that the click being felt to you, receiving the click through touch rather than through sound.
Well, a good medium of that is, did you ever see those you could get? It's almost like you could probably get it on an Apple Watch or some form of electronic watch, but it was like a click that it was exactly that. You put it on your watch, it was a metronome, and then it would just go bip, bip, and it was almost like hitting your arm with a vibration, and that was your metronome. So rather than in your ears, it was on your arm. So I guess it is doable, but it would be a very alien thing, especially
I've just never done it
during a gig. No. But you know what? I'll say one more thing, just because you mentioned it, and I forgot to mention it in last week's episode. The thing with the Dutch Criminal Record gig that did feel weird was that there was no monitors whatsoever. And it reminded me of when you play gigs, when you're younger, and, we're used to now playing with in-ears and whatever. And it's like, oh, I'll get as much click in as I can. And then you play the kick, and you like, okay, I'm confident I'm hitting the kick hard enough. But it was that thing again where I was hitting the kick and I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't feel it. And you're really smashing it. You're like, is anyone here in my... And obviously they are, because it's, you're hitting this massive drum and it's mic'd. But when you're competing with 3 guitar amps, it's, And I think it's interesting when you, just to mention that quickly, when you get used to monitors and stuff, and especially if you have a drum seat monitor. I've heard drummers say once you have that drum stool that gives you kick monitor, you you can't go back. You can't go back to just a drum stool because you just feel flat and dead. But yeah, I had to mention that. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be a tricky gig, but he got through it.
I just wonder whether, obviously, like, you know, that situation happened with him, and so his sound tech, you know, his drum tech's tapping him.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether it's actually just, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, actually having the click given to you in that manner.
Yeah.
Is actually doesn't
what
really
if he
change
prefers it? He prefers it, and now every gig the drum tech has to. It's like, fuck, we got to do this again. Like, yep, come on, hit my leg.
Yeah, then we make a device that just sort of clips onto the floor, and it's just like a hand.
Yeah.
And it's rigged up to the click, and it just slaps you.
Well, I did notice if you watch the video, he starts with hitting the guy's leg with his hand, and then he changes to hitting the guy's leg with a stick. And I love the thought behind that. He must have gone, do you know what? I think a stick would be better than my hand, as if he knows, like, or maybe the drummer turned to him and was like, "Oh, try a stick instead. I think I'll feel it better.
Spank me harder."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He just suddenly he's got a kinky whip, and you're like, I don't know if this is for the click anymore. I think this is actually like a fetish thing.
Yeah.
Should we have a break?
Yeah, we'll take a little break. Bye. Welcome back. It's
you
Thursday.
Moved on pretty quick. Oh, sorry. We can start again. I was ready to be like, you moved on pretty quick. Talking about the new person at the studio you've got.
Oh, yeah. So you're done with Pompey?
Yep, I am.
You binned it all off.
I only had 2 jobs left in Portsmouth: Music Fusion, music charity, and working at the studio afterwards in the evening for you. But last week...
That's it, the old team on the scrap heap, is it?
Exactly. However, you've got someone new already, which I'm not hurt, but you did find someone pretty quick. So, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
well,
you know, this is your rebound phase. I get it. You know, you've got to go through it and cope with me leaving any way you want, but quick.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's some overlap here. Sorry. But basically, Josh is due to start a 6-month university work placement here at the studio in September.
Oh.
And with you announcing your
retirement
from the game,
yep,
it felt only right for Josh to start stepping in on those Wednesday nights because I want to play football.
This is it. If you don't get to play football,
I play 5-a-side on Wednesdays at 9:00 most weeks, and obviously a lot of our work here is evenings with bands rehearsing. So I want to play football because I enjoy it. And it's good for the old mental health to go out and play some exercise with some mates. So it made sense to get Joshy boy in. So I've started training him up.
How is he? I haven't even met him.
All right, he's a nice lad. It's nothing. This is nothing to do with Josh, but I find it hard. I guess it's kind of like, I've got to, you know, get someone up to speed and onto the same page and fit into the system. And I have to essentially trust someone with quite a lot because the whole point, especially covering the rehearsals, the whole point is that someone's here, is that so I'm not here.
Yeah.
It's not a job where you're all in the same place 9 to 5 and you all do things together and then you all go home at the same time. This is a one man in, one man out situation. So it's kind of making sure, giving them, you know, the run of the land, like this is probably what's going to happen, but also then essentially just leaving someone with my studio. Yeah. And a
big pot of money in a safe, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, money in the safe and a lot of expensive equipment and alarm to be set and doors to be locked properly and lights to be turned off. Yeah. Aircon to be turned off. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess it's just the, you know, you've been here a good number of years, and so you know the score. Cool. But I also have to trust that he'll get it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And you can only really account, you'll know this. I can run you through as many situations and hypotheticals as possible, but until you're here on your own with bands in, it's impossible to go through every particular scenario.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also, you probably wouldn't want to tell him certain scenarios, like, you know, having a mic stand thrown at your feet or anything.
Yeah.
Set it up well. But,
so he's sat in with me on one evening shift. He's back in tonight.
Nice.
Just to you know, I'll pass a little bit of the handling of things over to him, but be on hand.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, he's I'll be here when he starts his shift, and then I'll be leaving him to it for a bit while I go and play football, and then I'll come back and just make sure he
hasn't burnt it to the ground.
Yeah. But if he has, I mean, fine. I'll take insurance and do something I really want to do. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you feel about being fully Brighton now?
Well, it's good. Do you know what? It was weird because it was obviously when I moved to Brighton, I kept the jobs in Portsmouth, but for 2 days a week, condensed them to 2 days just because of COVID. I was like, there could be another lockdown. And there was 2 other lockdowns since I moved here. So, but then it got to a point where I was like, well, I could probably get rid of the school. And then I did that whenever it was last summer. So then I got it down to 1 day, and 1 day was okay. I was like, I don't mind coming back to Portsmouth for 1 day a week on a Wednesday. And, you know, I was thinking people commute for work all the time. But it did they got to a point where I was like, do you know what? It eats into your week in a weird way. You kind of go, I always know I have to come back on a Wednesday. So even if I was trying to get some sort of other part-time job and they're like, oh yeah, it'll be, you know, these days. And I'm like, well, I can never do Wednesday. So how are we going to work around that? But it's quite a nice situation now where there's enough gigs that I'm like, genuinely, I could just do gigs all summer. And I think I might. There is, do you know what? If I'm being truthful, there's this part of me that's like 27. I ain't got a mortgage yet. I ain't got kids. I haven't got any real big responsibilities. Why don't I just do that until October? You know, just play gigs and just do that. Play gigs, go for a swim, live the easy life. Because one day I won't be able to do that. You know what I mean? One day I'll have to start making more money, and that's okay. But until then, you know what I mean? Yeah. In Brighton, it's just play some function gigs and just chill out. Anyway, I got a but yeah, no, I'm feeling good. It's just nice not to know that tomorrow I don't have to, because we're recording this on Tuesday, I don't have to go back tomorrow. As much as, you know, I genuinely did love working there and at Music Fusion.
Well, thank you for your service.
Well, that's okay. Well, honestly, I wouldn't have stayed there that long had I not enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Because it is a bit mental to go back to Portsmouth every week to sit in a studio in the kindest way. But anyway, moving on before I get nostalgic and go, no, I want to come back, get rid of Josh.
Yeah, stop crying now, George. Please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You're embarrassing yourself.
I got a brilliant.
I've moved on. I got Josh.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a new younger model.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is it, right? So he's 19.
Yeah.
He's 20 soon. He's at Pompey Uni.
Mm.
His mum is 10 years older than me. It's just weird.
Well, I think I said the other day, didn't I?
Just weird.
I had to send some charts to a drum dep who's doing a gig for one of my bands. Well, my only band, really. And I was like, what's your email? And it was his name, 2001 at gmail.com. It's like he's born beyond the 90s, which is mental for me. I can't imagine what it's like for you.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing some session drumming for an artist that Neil's working with.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, his email is blah, 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 2004.
Fuck off. That's mental.
Yeah.
No one's born in 2004.
I was at uni in 2004. So just quickly, because I know you've got something you want to bring up, but very, very quickly, am I right in thinking you've got a gig tomorrow with your first gig with your new band? First gig with a new band. Although, first gig, and it's a guitar dep. So, but it's Ben Corner, and we love Ben Corner. Yeah. Do you know what? Big up Corner. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Ben Corner. Genuinely, he
showed me what a good guitar dep is and what a good guitarist is, because, and I won't say the name of the guitarist that was in my function band, but one of them, well, there was two. One of them couldn't do a gig, and we got Ben Corner on, and I was really nervous because it was our first gig that wasn't our original lineup, and had this guy Ben Corner who I vaguely knew, and he turned up, and there was this song that our other guitarist couldn't play, but the one that was originally in the band used to play every week, but our other guitarist couldn't play it because he didn't know. He's like, "Oh, I haven't had time to learn it." I'm like, "You've seen him play it every week. What the fuck?" And so I said to Ben, I was like, "Well, would you be up for playing it?" He was like, "Yeah, let me have a quick listen." And he listened to the tune. It was like it was "I Want to Be Like You," but we played like a different version. And he listened to like a minute of it and was like, "Yeah, I got it. It's fine." And then we played the gig and he did it flawlessly. And I remember that was the first time I played with a guitar dep. And I went, "Oh, that's how it's meant to be. You know, it's not meant to be like, no, I'm going to need time to learn this." It was like, oh, yeah, if you just know it, you know it. But yeah, we got our first one tomorrow. It seems fairly simple. There's no first dance. They haven't even requested any songs, you know, that they want us to play. It seems like they don't really care. But
where is it?
I can't remember. It's close to London.
I think my mum always used to go, "Oh, have you got a gig this week?"
Yeah.
Like, "Yeah, I got a couple." "Where are they?"
Yeah.
"I don't know."
No idea.
"What do you mean you don't know?"
Yeah.
"Well, there's just loads of them." And
yeah, I remember.
I know if it's really close,
yeah,
normal, or really far away.
Yeah.
And I know roughly where it is, but there's just too many of them to know. Just like I know it's in my periphery.
Yeah.
It's in my polyphia.
Good.
Polyphial view.
Very good.
But I don't really need to worry about it.
No.
Till the day. I know I need to leave around X time.
Exactly. Well, this is it. I know load-in's at 4, and when I've looked at Google Maps, it's half an hour and a half there. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I know I need to leave at 2, but I don't know where it is.
Can you imagine doing this job before sat-navs?
Yeah, I know, right?
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Because I was in a gig the other day in the arse end of Wales.
Yeah.
And it was like tiny little single-lane country roads, and then, I mean, I don't know how you do that with a fucking giant AA map. Do you know what I mean?
No. But is that because, I mean, your generation a bit, but my generation definitely are so out of touch with having to, I've never used a map to get somewhere, you know, but like, you know,
I remember we had these little red book maps of like Titchfield and Stubbington, and when you go around like a new mate's house and you'd look it up, and you look up in the back and it would be like page 23, grid A7. So you go to page 23, A7, right there it is, knobhead close.
Yeah. And
then you'd like work your way back through the pages, right? I mean, like when I, at uni in London, like we didn't have sat-navs. I had an A to Z at my trombone case.
Yeah.
But I think particularly I think it's because a lot of these wedding venues we play are just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's what would be, I guess, tricky.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a good story of Neil's old original band, the RSP, doing a gig in Preston, I think. And this was maybe before sat-navs or something, but they said, "Oh, how'd you get there?" And Paul just went, "Oh, just go to Preston and then turn right at Staples." And they literally just drove to Preston, and there's the Staples, turned right, there was a gig venue.
Wow.
How good is that?
That's brilliant. I saw something this morning on my Facebook, little Facebook memory. You're not on Facebook, so you don't get these fun things. But 5 years ago today, I broke a drum stool whilst on stage. So, this ever happened to you?
Not a drum stool. Don't think.
It was something else broken on stage?
Yeah, skins.
Oh,
sticks,
yeah, skins. Yeah.
Will to live. Self-confidence. All broken.
So, we were playing this gig, and I think it was like 3 songs in. This was in Mallorca. And I was on a drum riser, and 3 or 4 songs in.
You said 3 a minute ago, so.
Yeah, 3. I can't remember, 3 or 4. Doesn't matter. the drum stool had 3 legs. One of the legs just snapped. And so while I was playing, I just fell. And I fell, but I fell off the drum riser. And then below the drum riser, there was like a smoke machine and all these like floor lights. So it wasn't like I fell even just on flat stage. It was just all metal and shit. And I didn't know what had happened. So I was, 1 minute I'm playing, next minute I'm on a smoke machine and just looking up going, this isn't, something's gone wrong here. So the band carried on playing, and there was 2 singers, and one of the singers helped me up, and we went backstage, found a stool, and then brought it on stage. And I don't know if it was adrenaline or something, but I felt fine. I felt really like, oh, this is all right. We came back, put the stool on stage, and then by the time I got set back up, the band finished the song, which, by the way, was a bit soul-destroying, because I always felt like if the drummer stops or anything, the whole thing falls apart. But these guys knew the song so well that they didn't need me. I'll be honest, I don't think...
What's George doing? Is he dead?
Yeah.
Fine. Keep going. Keep
going.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't think most of the audience noticed that I'd fallen off the stage. So but I'll say, so what was interesting is I think it was the adrenaline or something kept me going. I was like, oh no, I feel great. This is good. And then about 20 minutes later, it felt like I was winded all of a sudden. And it just really knocked me out. It was weird. And then, after the gig, we got big old Mackies just because, I was tired. But it was an odd thing to fall off stage mid-gig and then, keep it going. And then, it was like just being winded. It's like being kicked in the balls or something. And you're like, oh, I've got to keep playing football because, I paid £8 for this 5-a-side or whatever. Anyway, what else are we going to talk about?
I think we're just going to have a look at Time of the Week. Time of the Week.
That's a lovely, lovely time.
Okay. Well, we're going stateside, boy.
Yep.
We're going stateside, and we're going to the 7-time Super Bowl champion, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Does he have brothers who weren't as successful but still play? Can't remember. I think he did.
Apparently, this guy, he's the considered the greatest American football player to have ever lived and still live. 7 Super Bowls. He spent 20 seasons with the New England Patriots. He was a quarterback. That's all I could be bothered to.
Yeah. Beyond
but
that.
Then he did this weird thing, and I don't know where I stand with this because it seems to happen a lot. He was obviously like the greatest NFL quarterback. Yeah. Absolutely glittering career.
Mm.
And he then retired. He won his final 7th Super Bowl, and he retired, and he'd been with the Patriots for 20 years. And he retired, he's the absolute GOAT.
Yeah.
I don't really like that phrase.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Go out on a high.
Yeah.
You've made all the money you could possibly fucking make. Do you know what I mean? Wealthy beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
In the eyes of the public, the greatest football player of all time. Retires, then comes back. Coming back, you know. And then he came back and played for a different team. And you just kind of think, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why did you have to retire in the first place?
Yeah.
Or don't come back. Because surely it will never be as good as it was.
No. But it's like every sitcom ever, they can either be smart and go leave it at 2 seasons of The Office, or do they go what Only Fools and Horses do? And because they brought it back, you know what I mean? I'm very much changing this to TV, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I feel like the show ended when they actually became millionaires, and then they brought it back 10 years later or however long later, and it just showed them that they did. I think immediately showed them that they'd been millionaires, but then they lost it all, and then they went back to living in the flat and just carried it on. And part of me is would have been great. Imagine if the show did just end with millionaires, and then that is it,
Yeah.
And where is the line?
Yeah, I guess like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Bosh.
Well, exactly, because you can keep it going, and it'd be great.
But yeah, I guess just you see people. I don't know if there's been many footballers who've done it, but just retire and just leave it there.
But it must be the boredom thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've spoken about bands that keep touring, and you go, why do they, if they're not quite as good live? And it's because it's not just the money. It's like,
yeah. Well, I had a chat with one of Status Quo, Rick Parfitt, his manager, and I think Rick Parfitt's dead now, but this is a few years ago, and he basically said they just keep touring because they're bored.
Yeah.
It's like they don't need to.
No.
They've got all the money. They've got all that.
Yeah.
He lives in Spain, or he lived in Spain, but they're just like, I'm bored now. Should we just do another tour?
Yeah, if you can. Why not? But yeah, I get what you mean, especially if you end on such a high. Because I think it's also the legacy thing as well. Exactly. It's like that's your legacy. That's how. It's almost like, when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, and I was thinking, imagine if he lost, and suddenly he doesn't get 50 wins. He ends on 49 and 1 loss. And it's like, I don't know. But then he did get the win. So that's when it's like, oh, that's where it makes sense to come out of retirement. But if you come out of retirement and play for a lower team, it's like, I don't know. But maybe you miss it so much that you're like, I don't care. Robert De Niro is a good example. Made some classic films, but recently he's done some good shit. But 10 years before he was making really poor films that I've heard film reviewers going, he should be discredited for all the good stuff he did because of how bad this is. And they're like, I know he's Robert De Niro, but this is ruining his legacy. And I don't know. At what point do you, maybe they just go, I don't care about my I have done all those things.
I mean, maybe one day we'll have a legacy, but we definitely don't.
No.
So we ain't retiring from this shit.
No.
We're going to keep on rocking, boy.
You got to keep going. Yeah, you can't stop now. No, if we end the podcast, no one, and then come bring it back, no one will go, but they were on such a high. Why did they?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
There's nothing in the drum dumpster.
No, I swear there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. It's gone. Who cares? Who cares?
For next week.
Don't know.
Lovely spending some time with you, Georgie boy.
Yeah, you too. And I
Lovely
don't work with anymore. Well, that was what was funny. I'll just say quick. It's like, stop working at your studio. It was like, it's not like I'm not going to see you anymore. Got a bloody podcast. I've got a gig with you on Saturday.
We're too far in this shit now.
I know.
It's back out now.
Too intertwined. Yeah. Don't know what next week will be.
We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week with something.
Yeah. Might be a guest. Might not.
Yeah. If at least anything, we're consistent.
Yeah. Exactly.
E grades across the board. Right.
There you go.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.